don't leave. Hey, guys.
The minute I clicked on got it last week, it just, everything went blank.
Congratulations. You don't have to come to the meeting. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to try to share my screen. I'm on a brand new computer, so we'll see how this goes.
Is it an Amazon computer?
No, this is my personal, but it's the exact same setup. It's not even showing me my, I have no idea what I'm sharing. 2. Does that look like a bell? Here you go.
We see you. That's it.
Yeah, you're not sharing anything yet.
I know I'm not, because it's asking me to like give permission. Forget it. Ding. My gosh. All right, guys. No real updates from me, but I'll be honest, I haven't really been tracking much this week. So I'll open up the floor. Does anybody have any updates, Rotary or otherwise, you would like to share?
I've got 26.2 happy bucks.
I think,
Yeah, you would.
24,000 happy bucks.
Actually, the donations are coming in. I've got about $1,300 more I'm waiting on, but so far most people are upping their amounts. A couple people have doubled what they pledged. One person 4 times what they pledged, and it looks like I'm gonna get really close to $30,000, including the Gates matching. So I'm tickled about that. Actually tickled.
Nice, Jerry.
The race was amazing, absolutely amazing. If I'd have stopped anywhere, I'd have never finished it.
Well, so I don't know if you know this, but I was
10 foot after the finish line, I started walking and it was cramping everywhere. So
I was chatting with Debbie the whole time, like
were you?
updates where you were, and she at one point, I think it might have been mile 24. She's like, he stopped. I was like, uh-oh, he stopped. She's like, well, I said, well, maybe it's like a bad sensor. Maybe there's a faulty sensor or something, right? So I was glad to see her post that you had made it across the finish line.
No, mile 24 sucked. It was coming uphill by the Renson, and it was a major hill. I'm like, who the hell puts a hill at mile 24 in this thing?
Sadistic people.
It sucked. I was moving, but I wasn't moving very fast forward.
No, you got to just embrace. Come on, Jerry, you were in the Army. Embrace the suck.
Keep moving forward.
John,
but I did it, guys. I did it. It was
congratulations,
cool.
Jerry.
And Debbie's saying I'm not allowed to do it again, and I agreed with her that day.
I know, and then you were back at the gym.
Now the pain's gone. I'm like, I can beat that time.
Nice. John Cram, what do you got?
I have 20.5 happy bucks, 1 cent per kilometer of the Cross Egyptian challenge that I just completed.
Nice.
Honest. And I did it. Rats, my picture, I did it on a 150cc scooter.
Got your Indian traded in yet?
Mike just said that's almost as many CCs as his Enfield.
It was an exceptionally well-organized event. We got to see parts of Egypt I never heard about. No, there were no sandstorms. We went from Alexandria to Cairo, down south to Luxor, and then east over to the Red Sea, and then back north. Our shortest day was like 150 kilometers. Our longest day was like 450 kilometers. The road quality runs from about acceptable to there was a 100-kilometer stretch that was, my God, why are we here? Potholes broken up. It was a miserable day, but we made it. There were,
did you have a good time?
I think 9 different countries. It was organized by members of the Alexandria Cosmopolitan Club. I recommend it for everybody.
You had a good time then.
I did, and for the sissies out there, they do have about motorcycles about the 1,000cc range.
A question for you. I missed it before. How much bigger was that moped than your Indian? something in your eye, John.
Slightly smaller. Slightly smaller. And I'm sure you understand everything I'm saying.
Michael would like to know how you managed to go that far without your cappuccino machine and your nav system and your heating clips.
That's Jerry. Now, Vaxi went with me every kilometer of the way. I did find myself looking at the display, trying to look for my nav system, and all I saw was how many kilometers an hour I was going. But yeah, it was a real hoot. I may go buy myself a scooter.
Yeah, super useful where you live, right there in the booming metropolis. I'm glad you had fun. I'm looking forward to a slideshow and seeing all your pics when we have a chance.
They're gonna put out a straw man that we can use and personalize, and they say that'll be out in a couple of weeks. They had professional photographers there. These guys must have taken a gazillion photographs.
Awesome.
I got to tell you, John, in all seriousness, I'm jealous.
I'm super jealous.
Well, as you
Super
should be. But I am now the second oldest person to ever have completed it. There was one 74-year-old that completed it. And on the first day when we were meeting in Alexandria, there was a local newspaper reporter, and we had to have a translator. And one of the questions she asked is, at age 72, aren't you worried that something will happen to you? No. She couldn't believe an old fart would do that.
You're probably more likely to make it through than a bunch of the softies who are a lot younger.
I was talking with a fellow from South Carolina, and he said there are actual scientific studies out that says that motorcycle riding keeps somebody young, mentally alert. They're more able to handle surprises thrown at them because you have to be alert on a motorcycle. So it's a good deal, and I believe that. I don't feel a day over 71.
You don't look it either.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What other happy bucks do you got, guys? Mr. Keith.
Yeah, I've got a couple of happy bucks because I was last week in Idaho going to the State Motorcycle Safety Association's conference in Boise. And then on Saturday, I rented a car and drove over to Rexburg, just north of Idaho Falls, where two of my granddaughters are going to school at BYU, Idaho. So I got to go over and spend the day with them, and it was very enjoyable. On Sunday coming back, I stopped by the Craters of the Moon National Monument and toured Craters of the Moon, which I had not been to before. So it was a great weekend. Good conference too, Scott. You missed a good one.
Yeah. What is Craters of the Moon? I've never heard of that.
It's actually an old lava flow. If you go to Hawaii and the Big Island and see the current lava flows, there's not much different, but this is about 5 to 10,000 years old. And
wow.
It is unbelievable what you're looking at and how desolate it looks, but then how it blooms flowers every year.
Wow.
And where's this place at?
It's in southern Idaho, in between.
Oh, we were there.
Boise to the west and Idaho Falls to the east, about mid-state.
We drove to that, didn't we, Rory?
Yes, we got pictures of the bikes there.
All right, you got to put that on my list. That sounds beautiful.
It is. It was very and very interesting. I was really glad I'd stopped by to see it.
Road trip.
Yeah.
It's just a short one for everybody.
Except me.
I think it's literally not short for anybody. Kind of being a smart aleck. I think it's closest to Linda, actually. What else? What else we got, guys? Anything? Got a small group tonight. So Clark is going to be presenting his classification talk tonight. Tell us all about who he is and what he does.
And maybe why he does it.
Maybe why he does it. That'd be a good reason too. It's funny. I was cyber stalking you to get some information about you.
Oh.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was all over your website, learned everything about you and your wife. Yeah, everything. But I'll let you introduce yourself whenever you are ready, Mr. Paynter.
Are you, did you actually do that? I didn't know.
I did actually do that. I was on your personal, it's clarkpainter.com, right?
All right.
Yeah, I was on there.
So guys, I've got a problem, or I had a problem earlier today with my computer, and I wasn't sure I was going to make it this evening, and I've got parts of it rebooting and redoing and that sort of thing. So I'm a little shy of video and pictures. So you'll have to bear with me. What I was going to start off with is saying there's a lot of parts of Clark Paynter that we can talk about. So I'm going to give you three choices, I guess, this evening. One is my Rotary background and where I came from and how I got into Rotary, and the fact that my specialty for Rotary is fundraising. So that's number one. Number two is that I am holding three Canadian championships for co-driving rally cars at high speeds in the woods. And the last one is my business, how I got there, how I became an entrepreneur at the age of 10, and how I've developed that. I call it, are you a salesperson? And I think everybody is. It's just how we develop it from there. So
I choose D, all of the above.
Okay.
You got 38 minutes, Clark.
I got 38, so I could go just
You
about.
want to? Yeah.
First of all, I must show you guys. See, my masks are now matched with my ties.
Nice.
I have 18 sets of ties and masks. I'm a tie wearer. I wear a tie every business day. It's very seldom without one. I'm in the investment business. Most of my clients like the conservative. That's not very conservative, but the conservative manner of tie and shirt and tie and suit. Let's talk performance rallying then for a few minutes. And that's the only video I was able to get up. And I'm probably messed up your sharing because I was on first and created a share. So
No, I don't have my settings set. So make sure you share your, when you share, make sure you share your audio. There's a little button at the bottom left of that screen that pops up that says share computer file.
If I get it up, if I can get it back, that's the next problem. Let's see. Here we go. So the little screen to the left, the little something to the left.
When you hit the share screen button, there's a green button down at the bottom of your screen. When you hit that
Okay,
share
so
screen.
you haven't seen it. I thought I had already started the share. So
Yep.
Share.
There we go.
Got it.
Got it. Yes, sir.
And where's the video or the volume? This one?
It's all right. It was before this screen, so we'll see if we get it.
Okay.
You
All
can
right.
talk us through what's happening here. I suspect there'll be lots of head bobbing and.
So high performance rallying. What we do is we get permission to block roads, usually logging roads and cottage roads and the like. Cottage roads we usually do after cottage season and before hunting season, so it's a tight little squeeze in there. Logging roads are much easier to get, and this then each car is brought up to the start line. We've had a chance to go through the route the day before, make a bunch of notes and where the corners are and how sharp they are and how far to the next one and a few things like that. And my job then on the day of the event is to read the notes back to the driver so that he can approach the corners a little faster and go a little faster coming out of the corners. So I'm noted as being pretty level-headed. I don't get too excited in there. I've crashed. I crashed with my brother 3 times as he was driving, and I had to take him aside and tell him that he couldn't take his wife with us any longer, because as soon as his wife was there, he lost his concentration. And so we rolled 3 times out of a 10-year period because she was there. And as soon as she stayed home, we were quite successful, continued to be. I drove with a...
That's quite a compliment to his wife.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it was more often she would meet us and she'd say, I don't know whether Debbie likes me or not because she said this, and then he'd worry about her not having a good time, and so it was the concern was always whether she was having a good time. My wife told her from day one, which my wife learned quickly, I guess, that once we get into rally mode, we're probably not even going to look at them, and don't expect to be kissed every time you see him, and don't be expected to expect to hold hands. So I'm going to run this little video. You'll hear me. I hope you'll hear me telling him some of the corners, and we'll see what happens. Can you hear the video?
Nah, but we can see it.
So I'm saying right 5, 6, no cut, left 5 uphill. And so I'm giving him those bits and bits. Keep your line as one of the comments. And so.
Are those windshield wipers super useful?
But I don't want him to take his hands off the wheel to turn them off either.
How fast are y'all going?
In that one, that's at a true speed, and we're probably in about the I was going to say 80 kilometer range, 80 to 90 kilometers, which is 65 ish miles an hour.
That must be intense in that terrain.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I thought that was a corner that he actually dropped his the back wheels into the ditch. I'll flop back off, and then we'll have a chat about what that's all about. There we go. So open for questions. I traveled across Canada. I did the Canadian Rally Series 7 or 8 years. Won the production championship. Production being cars that are basically straight off the showroom floor, and we put the safety gear in. The cages are 6 points all around the car with crossbars and the like. We are in 6 point seat belts. We have intercoms between us, and our helmets are checked, and usually have about a 4.5 to 5 year lifespan, unless you crack them one time, and then they pull them out. I've had, I mentioned the 3 crashes with my brother. One of the crashes was a brand new car that was built for us by Subaru Canada. And when I went to do the testing of the car, they had belts in it, seat belts in it, that I picked up, looked at, and asked why. And they said, well, we got kind of a discount on them. And I said, yeah, I'm not happy with these belts. Well, we got a discount. Okay, what was the discount? Well, it was 15%. And I said, Jesus, guys, I can get you 15% on just about anything, anytime, and I'll pay the extra 15. Anyway, we did one event, and on the next event that we had the new car, we rolled over. We ended upside down in long grass. My brother is slightly claustrophobic, so he went out of the car. I guided him through and got him out, and then when I went to pull my belts, they wouldn't release, which was exactly what I was concerned from at the front end. Wasn't a factor. but we didn't have a tool to cut them either. So I hung upside down for about 5 or 6 minutes. And that doesn't sound like a long time, but let's suppose we were in a fire at that point, or the car had gone on fire. So I wasn't long talking to the team manager and telling them I would not enter the car again unless they put the belts in that I wanted. So it's, and my closest accident, my hardest accident was, or closest to being dangerous, is I pulled, we rolled again, but we didn't roll, but we were close. And I looked out to see what we might roll on when glass started bouncing off my helmet, and I turned around to have a pulp log just about chin level. And then the car settled backwards and the pulp log went back out the window. And we scared enough co-drivers that day that took them a little while to get back in their own cars and rally. So,
When did you start racing?
well, I started rallying when I was 18. I didn't do this stuff. There is something called navigational rallying, where you anybody can do it with an ordinary car, and it's a time, speed, distance kind of thing. And I started that when I was 18, having read a half a dozen books about rallying. And I went off to my training program for business. Came back and joined a club here in the city, and they needed a scorer, and I'm a numbers guy, so I did scoring for them for 1 or 2 years, and then they needed a chief marshal, which is the guy that puts everybody together, make sure they're in the right place, and just see your note there. Became the chief marshal and then ran a national event for 10 years when somebody phoned me one day and said, "You've never really competed." And so I was probably getting around 28 or 29 when I first stepped into a co-driver's spot, and had to learn quickly that you had to keep your head about you. So kind of like riding motorcycles, as John mentioned earlier.
I was actually thinking, like, I feel like we need to make you a ride captain at some point when we come up north.
Yeah, well, I am a ride leader, I think they call them in the fellowship.
And you happen to fall in my region. So perfect.
Yeah. So
What other questions do we have about rallying, y'all?
What fellowship are you in? Is it a rallying fellowship, or?
no, I have never checked to see if there is one. That's an interesting question. I'm in the fellowship of motorcycling Rotarians,
Okay.
and so I've been there for 8 or 10 years. My dad was a Rotarian years ago, and I was a little miffed when the new Rotary Club was established 30 years ago, and I wasn't asked to be a member. And it took about 6 years, I guess, after they started that I got invited to talk about rallying, as it turns out, and the potential of maybe making a rally a fundraiser. And I talked about it, quizzed a few people at the Rotary meeting, and then got invited back. And I spent my first 10 years in Rotary. I always say I became a Rotarian 10 years after I was a member. That sounds funny, I guess, but the first 10 years, because I'm a fundraiser, because I'm a project kind of guy, I kept thinking, okay, after this project, I'm going to have to really think about whether I'm a Rotarian or not. And luckily, I guess, to me and the club, they kept finding projects for me to get involved in. And so 10 years out, I was secretary of the club, and I went to the district conference, and the incoming president was somewhat younger than I, and she we were in a after hours drinking party, And she turned, and we were talking membership, and she turned to me and she said, well, you've sponsored a number of Rotarians. How do you go about it? And I had to admit that I had never sponsored a Rotarian at that point. And it was on my drive home when I was thinking about it, and I wondered why I'd never invited anybody to Rotary. And the reason is that I was never committed. I was always thinking at the end of this project, just as being the secretary, maybe I'll be secretary for the year, and at the end of the year, I'll have to decide whether I want to stay in. And so on my drive home, I decided that I better stay in and I better become committed and I better go find members. And 2 nights ago, I was leaving the office building I work in, and there was a young lady about 2 weeks ago in the elevator, and she wanted a picture of me in my mask and my tie to send to her father. So I met her in the parking lot last night, or night before last, and we got talking, and her father was quite happy to see the tie and the mask, and it was pretty cool, and yada yada. And I said, you ever thought about being a Rotarian? And so she's coming to our meeting on Friday morning at 7:15 in the morning. And I talk Rotary about, I was going to say 90% of the time, but I come back to our club meeting after traveling, and I was in Bermuda, from Bahamas, I guess, Bahamas it was. And I told about meeting a Rotarian on the street. I just happened to look up, and he had a Paul Harris pin on his jacket as he was coming along, and I stopped him, and we had a great yarn and chat, and then I met a lady who had been an exchange student on the plane on the way back, and one of my members said, "Geez, do you wear a sign on your back?" And I don't, but I talk Rotary lots. So I'm a fundraiser.
This is our next future Rotarian.
Good. Are you in the Rotaract yet?
No, no, she's in everything else right now.
Ah,
Well, it's funny that you say that you keep running into people. I feel like we have like there's a orbit. There's some kind of pull, because I was at a funeral. I ran into somebody who had a Paul Harris pin the other day, and then actually I hopped off of my motorcycle at a brewery, and this group of people walked by, and this gentleman said, "Hey, nice bike." I said, "Thanks a lot." He said, "I used to ride. I have a bike, but I don't ride anymore because I don't have anybody to ride with." And I was like, "Well, hey." And that's when he told me he's actually a Rotarian.
there.
So I was like, I explained to him like you are, that we have associate members and we have that different membership, and talk to him, and didn't hand him a business card. Jerry, I need to get on getting some business cards, but it's fantastic. I think I find that those of us from the places that are talkative, the Northerners here, we tend to run into people probably more often than others do.
And it's one of the things that I've tried to get our club, and they're starting to see the thing, is that even when we're volunteering at something else, we should be considered a makeup. So Friday night, I got asked to go and sell 50-50 tickets at the junior hockey league hockey team. And I ended up talking Rotary a couple of times. It's a makeup as far as I'm concerned, even though it's not a Rotary project, but
So that was your first person you've invited. How many people would you say you've invited since then?
First person was probably 20, not quite 20 years ago, but 15 at least. And I'm responsible for probably 15 or 16. Not all Rotarians today, but have been in and out. And I guess, as it was just said, us Northerners tend to be a little more friendly, and I guess that's because we're chillier and we need a crowd. But a Jamaican family came up to go to school, and he was a Rotarian, and he reached out for some help, and I've become great friends with him, and so I guess you do it. What else? Fundraising. Let's talk about fundraising. So I've had in my 20 odd years of Rotary, I've developed a bunch of fundraisers. My most recent one that it took me, it's always fun to go to the club with I wouldn't say off the wall, but large ideas that that they have to get their head around. And what I do is I build a team before I get there. So about 8 years ago, I started working on something called RibFest. And I don't know whether you guys have RibFest any place along the way, but what we have is 6 or 7 trucks that come from Southern Ontario, and they all have American names. So, you know, there's the Texas Rangers and the Alabama Camp 31, and, you know, they're all the Southern American names because there's probably not too many Alaskan rib trucks. And so we take a big parking lot in downtown Halifax. We put 6 or 7 trucks on there. They pay a rent to be there. And moose ribs, yeah. No, they're pork ribs. And then we sell spaces to subsidiary vendors. And my first year that we set it up, we were break even within a half hour of opening the gates. Everybody's free coming in. It's so you come in and you buy your ribs and you sit down. We maintain all the beverages. So we sell all the beverages, beer, wine, hard liquor, water, soft drinks. So we make our money there. Our sponsorship and our vendor fees pay for the weekend. So when I said we were a half hour in before we broke even first year. I promised the club, I always have to sort of ease into it because I said, well, I thought we could make $15,000 when in my mind I thought we were going to make 25. But I figured if I said 25 and made 15, then it wasn't a success. So I said 15. We made $41,000 the first year, and we've tapped out probably 130 is our top year, and it's a big party. And when I built my team, I had 9 people on the team. Got one guy in from our club who plays in 2 different bands, knows all the musicians, and was able to capture musicians for the entertainment at reasonably good prices. And so the most interesting part of that story was we have ATMs on site, and ATMs provide about $7,000 worth of income to us because people come, it's all cash, and they have to go to the ATM, and so we end up with cash there. But one of the problems is that when they bring the cash out of the machine, that cash comes out of circulation and actually goes to the bank. So when you bring $20 out of the account, I don't get that $20 right away. It goes to the bank. So about Sunday afternoon, after going through about $280,000 on the ATMs, I no longer have cash to keep the economy running. So I had to go to the rib trucks, and I borrowed $40,000 from the rib trucks to get through the rest of the afternoon, and promised to deliver the $40,000 in cash because they love cash. The tax man doesn't see as much, and promised to deliver the $40,000 on Tuesday when it cleared my bank. And but they were now an hour and a half away, so I had to get in the car with this pile of money, and it wasn't all from one rib truck. It was a mix of rib trucks. So I started by myself driving down the road, counting $40,000 into about 7 different envelopes. And partway down, I thought, shit, if I fall off the road here, there'll be bills going all over Helen Creation, and the cops will take me away for running drugs or something.
Running ribs.
I think your brother wasn't driving, right?
And my brother wasn't driving. No.
Yeah, I know.
What's so what is that? I mean, something that large, that's a big undertaking. How many people do you end up having? I'm sure you have an executive board that helps put it on and everything. What does that look like?
As I say, the 9 people on the team are 9 people that I've handpicked, and I had one of my better friends in Rotary say, "How come you didn't ask me to be on your rib committee?" And I said to her, "Because you didn't have anything to offer. I will be. Yeah, I know it's tough. I will be back to you when I have a project that you can be involved in." So I had, as I said, the musician. I had a couple of barkeeps. I had one guy who is a jerry rigger. He's the guy that I turn to and say, "We got to fix this," and he goes, "Yeah, I can do that," and leaves. And on the day of the event, or the 4 days that we run it, we probably, I would have to say that we're probably 300 volunteer shifts of people. We sort all of our garbage. All of our garbage is sorted out, and so we have crews that are volunteers that look after that. And we pay. So we go to church groups that are looking for money to raise money. We'll go to the church group, say, you do 2 days garbage, and we'll pay you or contribute to your program. There's a big Boy Scout Rovers group that have specialized in emergency health. Yeah, and they've got well trained by EMTs, we call them up here. I don't know what you guys call them, but ambulance drivers, ambulance people, and they're trained by those folks, and they're probably better than St. John's Ambulance and or Red Cross, anybody that I've seen. But they're not allowed to do anything for pay, but they're happy to do donations. So we end up donating to them about $3,500. And we've also, one of my good clients and friends builds ambulances up here, and I was able to get from him a stretcher, and it's a stretcher that matches all the stretchers in all the rigs. So if they've got somebody on a stretcher when the ambulance shows up, they just swap out stretchers and take them away. And so we help out and support lots of other places. I said 130. Probably that year we kept about 90 grand in the coffers of the club for our bits and pieces.
How big is your club, membership wise?
We just amalgamated clubs, so I'm going to say we're 68.
Okay. So I think we're running about 50-50. I'm sorry, we're running about 25 active and associate members currently. So
In this group, yeah.
In this group.
Yeah.
I always put this out because I want to hear people. I want to hear ideas from people on how we can fundraise, right? Doing something like you guys do is awesome, and it's a big money driver, and it's an opportunity for everybody to get together. But I'm always trying to sense the group and source ideas for how we can do virtual fundraisers or something that's disparate, because we're in so many different places. So I'll just put that needle in your brain and see, as the fundraising guy.
I threw one out last year to this group.
Yep.
All right. So, my head's always trying to figure out what to do. I mentioned that I became an entrepreneur at the age of 10. I bought a newspaper route that had 19 papers on it. And my biggest bugaboo was the fact that I had to walk back, and this was in a small country town, and probably 600 households. And I had to walk past 7 large lot yards to get to my last paper on that street. And so I phoned the dispatcher after doing it for a couple of weeks and said, send me 4 extra papers, send me 23. And he said, but you only have 19 on your subscribers. I said, I understand that, but well, you'll need to pay for them. I understand that. You can't return them. I understand that. And so I started dropping the 4 extra papers on the 6 houses I had to walk by. And on Friday, when I get paid, I knocked on all 4 doors and said, "You've seen my service. You want to keep it up? This is what it costs." And I captured 3 out of the 4. And the next week I asked for 3 extra more papers, and I just kept building. And so when I left that small town at the age of 14, my brother and I were running, the same brother that rolls the car with me. We were running 375 papers every day. And they had to break up our business, our routes between 7, brought them back to about 50 each, 7 kids. So I'm always thinking, always trying to figure out.
Bigger and better ways. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Always.
What other
ahead.
questions do we have for Clark? You know, with
Mark, how long you been doing the Rib Fest?
We're 8 years now. 8 years ago, I started. 7 years ago, we actually hit the streets. The last 2 years, of course, with COVID, we've been doing virtual, which actually is causing me a little trouble for next year. And the reason it's causing me a little trouble is that the music guy, one of my key workers says, "You know what? We spent less than 10% of the time this year, and we made a third of the money we'd normally make. Maybe we should just do a virtual Rib Fest next year." And I'm saying, yeah, it's the party that works, not right now we're still keeping people happy by doing some virtual, but we're not selling any booze, and that's where our money comes from.
Yeah, 100%. And you're in Halifax, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We just
The reason I asked, I was in Halifax 15 years ago, and I've been to a Rotary Rib Fest somewhere, and I just don't know where it was. Now that I think about it, but I thought it was in Halifax, but it wouldn't have been in that case.
Yeah, no, they were strong and have been strong for 15 or 18 years in Ontario. So if you were in that part of the world,
It could be.
Yeah.
It could very well be.
It's a neat fundraiser.
When you said you do have that planned for this coming year?
July 1 is our Canada Day. So
Canada Day, yeah.
Yeah, so we work it around July 1 because that's a 4-day weekend for us.
For a ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not about
That's
it.
what we talk
Ribs
about.
and motorcycles.
We're
That'd be
gonna
great.
go to Guatemala and come home for 2 days and then ride to Houston and then come home for 2 days and then go to Nova Scotia. I'm just gonna need to become independently wealthy between now and
That's it. That's it. Buy those tickets.
Well, Clark, we're actually running up on time. Thank you very much for talking to us tonight. You have used such a breadth of fun things to talk about. Obviously, if at any point in time you want to come back and give us the non-abridged version of any one of the 3 things. We actually didn't talk about what you do for a living at all. So if you actually want to come back and have your classification talk at some point, welcome the opportunity to do so.
I guess my classification is just multitasking. I don't stop very often. So
Classification, get stuff doneer.
yeah.
I can relate to that one. Do we have any last questions? All righty. Mike just said Bueller. I have to get this guy. Well, he's going to have to actually join us. Well, thank you, Clark, very much. Appreciate it. It was a fantastic presentation tonight. Thank you for all the good questions, everybody. We could chit chat for 5 minutes, or we could do the 4-way test and then chit chat. Scott Nelson unmuted like he had something to say. I think it's because he wanted to lead us in the 4-way test and the meeting.
Good.
I think you unmuted just for that reason.
Well, it's a convenient byproduct. All right, there we go. The 4-way test of the things we say and do. Number 1, is it
The truth.
Number 2,
Is it fair to all?
All concerned.
Number 3,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Beneficial to all concerned.
And 5, is it fun?
It'll be fun.
Is it fun? Gotta be fun.
It's gotta be fun. Thanks again, Clark. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I didn't look at what we have next week. I'm ill prepared for the meeting tonight. Next week's meeting is gonna be even more exciting. It's a surprise. You'll have to come to find out or look at the website because I didn't.
Okay.
So you guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Clark.
Thanks, Amanda. Good job.
But happy hour, it's a happy hour meeting next week. It'll be even more fun.
Night, folks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.